Welcome back YouTubers to my channel of an everyday life of an Aspie. If you're new to my page, I welcome you all. I'm Aspie. I'm all about creating mental health and awareness and sharing my life stories with Aspergers Syndrome and the like, and hopefully that you can journey with me with what my life is like, and hopefully we can gain a better understanding and connecting with one another somehow within this. I also do some tips and advice along the way with your general health versus your mental health versus everything in between, as well as hopefully being your support and guide of basically leading you in for support and encouragement through what you go through in your everyday personal struggles, regardless what it may be, leading up to giving you hopefully clarity, understanding and hope and a peace of mind for what you're going through, that you're never alone, regardless what it may be. So it has been brought to my attention, obviously, that I'm doing about basically more mental health series versus basically another autism series, but as I said, it's going to be broad and wide. So I had to take time out, well, no internet obviously, to try and find internet and actually do hardcore research of certain topics that I feel to share with you all. So this one's going to be under the all about schizophrenia help and advice, or help central on my playlist, so be on the lookout for that. If you want, I'll try and link that playlist onto these videos for you so that you can easily find it for yourself on the information bar somewhere on the top left or top right of the screen as I'm talking to you about this. So no further ado, basically guys, at this point in time, as I said, this one's all about schizophrenia, especially. And any other topics that I come out comes from what I've been through or what I've done through training and whatnot, and I want to share with you all. That is close to my heart to share with you all, because obviously someone needs to hear some of this as well, or we should be able to educate one another with these forums, social media sites, because as we know, social media is power nowadays, as well as knowledge is power. So therefore, basically, before we begin this, as always, as a disclaimer, I'm no medical professional. I'm just your normal everyday Joe blog, sharing my life stories. So if you see any warning signs and symptoms leading up to any of these videos, that is either for you that you've seen the classic signs, or your loved one, seek professional help or second opinion for your loved one, because I don't forever condone self-harm or what have you. I want you guys to live a happy and peaceful life. And not all the further ado, also just a heads up, also is that some of these facts that I give you may be either based on the US statistics versus the UK statistics, so I humbly apologise. As you know, I'm a New Zealand Kiwi, but I've been trying to look for some statistics to match fit, but hopefully you can just get an understanding anyway in regards to what I share and the statistics when you hear them out in some parts of my series, regardless what they are, and then hopefully in regards to that we can just keep continuing on learning to educate from one another, or learn from one another regardless what it is. So as we know, this one's part 2, or myths and misconceptions about schizophrenia. Smash that like button if you're liking these theories that I'm giving you out to you, because as I said, hopefully I can educate you all and learn from each other and teach you. So, as I said before, I'm always here to try and get rid of the myths and misconceptions about certain mental health disorders versus, autism, Aspergers Syndrome, and the like, obviously. And I'm thinking with that aims and goals intact of what I've shared in one of my very beginning pieces in my video, that I am actually doing it pretty well. I also want to put it to rest of some of the facts and truths about it all, about these, myths and misconceptions that we may hear about of these mental health disorders, especially today of what I'm sharing with you all, schizophrenia, basically. And in saying this, obviously, I hope that we can all get a better understanding about this and many more mental health disorders that I'll be bringing out to you, or that we may have come across, which is anything at all really, just to put our mind at ease. So, number 1 is of a myth is schizophrenia means the person has a split personality. This is not 100% true. Wrong. Split or multiple personality is an extremely rare condition that doesn't cause psychosis. So this statement is forever untrue. On the other hand, though, the behavior of people with acute psychosis does change over time, but this is due to the illness, not any of the personality changes that's taking place. When the illness resolves, the behavior does return to normal. Number 2, people with schizophrenia are aggressive and violent people. Again, this is not true. It is clear that outside the times of acute illnesses, people with schizophrenia are no more violent than any other member of the community, regardless who it may be. With good care and treatment, risks during times of acute illness can be minimized. However, people with schizophrenia, especially if it's not treated well, can be violent or victims of violence. Number 3, people with schizophrenia are always dangerous. Again, this is not always true. This is one of the most common and most enduring myths around schizophrenia, that all people suffering from this condition becomes dangerous. Whilst the myth is not founded, however, it's the case that people with living schizophrenia are more at risk of dangerous behaviour, such as suicide or violence, when they are poorly or unwell. Studies have found that between 10 and 23% of people who are experiencing acute psychosis, however, may exhibit violent behaviours. This is probably accounting for around 30 homicides, of a total of about 600 per year in the UK alone, or whether this is proportionally more than the general population, taking into account the young age group of schizophrenia, remains a matter of some debate here. Schizophrenia is predominantly an illness of young people, 70% of all cases being diagnosed between the ages of 16 and 25. It also happens that most violent crimes are carried out by young people. So although the proportion of homicides committed to people with schizophrenia is far greater than the incidences of schizophrenia in the population as a whole, the statistics are skewed by the age of the attacker. Is by no means clear that people with schizophrenia are more likely to commit violent crimes than people who don't have the condition. Number 4, schizophrenia is rare. Schizophrenia affects people from all walks of life and social backgrounds. It has no race, gender, or what have you, like many other mental health disorders I've shared with you all. It exists in races and societies and strikes people in all age groups. The average incidence is about 1%. This is to say that about 1 person over 100, however, will experience an episode of the illness at some time during their life. Today, however, about 280,000 people are being treated by the condition by the NHS in the UK. So the condition is much more common than people will think. Number 5, schizophrenia is caused by a bad upbringing. We hear this all the time about people with mental illnesses, however, is caused by bad parenting and the like, as shared. In particular, bad mothering was thought to cause schizophrenia in offspring for much of the 20th century that has been around today. This belief has been founded widespread support from the followers of Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theories, but it's worth noting that Freud himself believed that schizophrenia probably had physical origins and refused to treat it by psychoanalysis. The various psychoanalytic theories, however, has reflected the belief that traumatic experiences in early childhood, often forgotten and has been acknowledged, affected the development of the child's ego. Later, so the theory goes, under the stress of adolescence, the ego disintegrates and the person regresses to an infantile condition. Frieda von Rickman, the German psychoanalyst, saw the family upbringing as being the cause of schizophrenia. In the year of 1948, basically, Fromm and Rickman took this as a stage further and came up with the concept of schizophrenic families. That's a family environment that gives rise to schizophrenia in the offspring. In the 1960s and 70s, however, the growth of the anti-psychiatry movement gave the belief added impetus. And thus such family theories have been widespread amongst professionals who have seen the person's family as being part of the problem, rather than as an important factor in the overall therapeutic solution. Families were often denied information about their loved one's condition, and people suffering from psychotic episodes were sometimes removed from their supportive family home to live in seedy bedsits where they were often unable to cope with the pressures of everyday life and were targeted by predatory or antisocial neighbours. The families were then stigmatised as being the cause of their loved one's problems. The theories which gave rise to these abuses were often not tested by evidence, and thankfully we've left this behind. However, it's still possible to occasionally encounter older professionals who stumble and cling to these beliefs today. Number 6, schizophrenia is caused by abuse during childhood. With society's growing awareness of the issue of child abuse during the 90s and into the 21st century came the hypothesis that experiences of abuse during childhood and adolescence cause schizophrenia later on in life. Whilst such experiences of abuse are undoubtedly psychologically damaging, there's currently no research evidence of a link with schizophrenia, however. In fact, the theory that trauma in early life can cause schizophrenia later isn't new and has been around since the 19th century. It's been the subject of a good deal of research, particularly during the later half of the 20th century. The weight of evidence suggests that the link doesn't exist. This is perfectly logical. Although childhood trauma did cause schizophrenia later in life, we would expect to see epidemics of schizophrenia amongst these groups, like concentration camp survivors or the victims of the Blitz, and that simply didn't happen. Number 7. Schizophrenia is just the same reaction to an insane will. British psychoanalyst Addie Lang, who became the doyen of the anti-psychiatry movement in the 1960s, obviously had a bizarre theory of this brainchild of this particular someone I'm talking about, who became the doyen in the 1960s due to the theory has grown out of the idea that often the person diagnosed with schizophrenia was the scapegoat for the social turbulence of a dysfunctional family environment. It may, in fact, paradoxically be the sanest member of the family group. Although this idea gained a great deal of popularity in later life, Lang himself became increasingly disillusioned with it. Number 8. Schizophrenia doesn't exist. Again, like any other mental health disorders, of course it does exist. Dr. Thomas Sayers, American psychoanalyst who believed that schizophrenia was a myth, in the middle of the 20th century, there were those in the anti-psychiatry movement who proposed that schizophrenia didn't exist at all, and that it simply wasn't mentioned by that psychiatry profession. Dr. Thomas Sayers. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing some of these names wrong. It's going to be sounding funny. I'm hoping that you guys will understand where I'm coming from. A psychoanalyst in the USA became well known for this theory. He called schizophrenia a fake disease and the sacred symbol of psychiatry. Perhaps if he had ever had to endure day living with the voices inside the head, he would not have resorted to this strange notion. Number 9. Antipsychotic medication is just a chemical kosh. Although the early antipsychotics called typical didn't have sedating effects, and in high doses could cause people on them to become slow and lethargic, antipsychotics aren't used principally for that effect, but for the benefit that they bring in helping to alleviate the positive symptoms of schizophrenia, such as the delusions and hallucination. Chlorpromazine Lagatil was the first of the antipsychotic drugs to be used. Unfortunately, these early antipsychotics were often misleading, called major tranquilizers, a term which has stuck to this day and unfortunately leads to much confusion about their roles. One of the first psychiatrists to study their use, the Frenchmen Jean Delay and Paul Denneker, first used the antipsychotic chlorpromazine in psychiatry. It was precisely the fact that the drug had a more precise effect in calming their patients than the other tranquilizers that were in use during that time period that attracted them to it. It was later found that this effect was not due to sedation, but because the chlorpromazine acted directly to reduce. Before the advent of the antipsychotic drugs, most people with a diagnosis of schizophrenia were confined in one of the large asylums, and this was one on the edge of doubt and was sometimes for many years. The beneficial humanitarian effect of the antipsychotic drugs shouldn't be underestimated, however. Before the introduction of these drugs in the UK, about 70% of people with a diagnosis of schizophrenia were continuously confined in mental hospitals. Today is only about 5%. The more modern atypical forms of antipsychotics have less sedating effect and are preferred nowadays over the older type of typical ones. The guidance been given to NICE to NHS doctors working in the UK is that newer atypicals should be used in preference to the older typicals in new cases of schizophrenia, where the person is acutely ill or where side effects are being experienced from the use of an atypical drug. Number 10. People with schizophrenia will be severely debilitated for life. Laws in theory, this shouldn't be so. In practice, there is, at least in the UK, some truth in this, however. Our experiences of schizophrenia from over a century of study has told us reliably that about 25% of people who experience an episode of psychosis will go on to recover completely and have no further problems in their life. We also know that now that, given proper treatment, a large proportion of the remainder will substantially be recovered and will go on to achieve a high level of functioning. Yet in the UK today, only about 13% of people with a diagnosis of schizophrenia are in any kind of work. So clearly there is an enormous disparity between the clinical outcomes as well as the social outcomes. Why is this so? Clearly this is an area that needs much more greater study in this, in particular in view of the fact that the number of people with schizophrenia that work at the moment in the UK is actually declining. There may also be a number of factors at work here. Some would blame a benefits culture that gives people on the sick very few incentives to seek work. Others would blame the stigma that people with schizophrenia face from employers when looking for work. Another factor may be arguably that many of those professionals caring for people with schizophrenia see permanent unemployment as being the natural lifestyle for people with a diagnosis of schizophrenia and have little ambition for people in their care. Others may be loath to put their patients under the stress of looking for work in an increasingly competitive jobs market for fear of provoking a relapse in their conditions. Whatever the reason may be, we believe that the issue is an area that should become absolutely key in the study of this condition and development of treatment models in future years to come. Many thousands of bright and intelligent people who could be making a creative contribution to the well-being and prosperity of our society are currently consigned to a life of low achievement because of these underlying issues clearly addressed just now. After all, other countries, notably Italy and Cuba, have much better outcomes in terms of employment for people living with schizophrenia. This is not, however, a problem unique to people with schizophrenia. Most people with physical disabilities also experience other people in society who wrongly assume that they are incapable of achieving. If it's genetic, then we can do nothing about it. Research has shown that there are a number of factors that can contribute to a successful recovery, including reducing family stress, useful occupation, and reducing stress from financial problems. We also know that earlier diagnosis and treatment with antipsychotic medication will improve prospects of a good recovery enormously. Another factor that's crucial to successful recovery is having a good recovery strategy put in place. Living one day at a time may be an appropriate strategy for people coping with a crisis, but later it's necessary to start identifying goals in your life and plotting a path towards those goals. Having a genetic predisposition to suffering with schizophrenia is no way guaranteeing that you will suffer from it, and even if you do, there is no need for an episode of schizophrenia to necessarily be a lifetime sentence. 12 is genetic. Then let's get rid of the bad genes. Health Euthanasia Center in Germany, where over 18,000 people with disabilities, including people with schizophrenia, were killed during the Third Reich. This was, of course, exactly what the Germans tried to achieve during the Third Reich. Then people with schizophrenia were simply killed by the use of gas chambers in the hope that the defective genes could be eliminated from the race. Apart from the humanitarian and ethical considerations, this approach has three serious flaws. First of all, it's not clear whether the genetic factors consist of one gene acting alone or several acting in combination, so the process is almost more complicated than they may appear at first sight. Secondly, as we have said before, or I've said before, simply having the right genes for schizophrenia is no way in guaranteeing that you will suffer from it yourself. For instance, if you're an identical twin with a sibling who has schizophrenia, you only have a 50% chance of suffering from it yourself, even though you share all the same genes. And last but not least, genes with adverse effects on the species tend to be bred out of the gene pool during the natural process of evolution, and the fact is that schizophrenia gene has survived this long implies that it must impart beneficial traits to the species in addition to the adverse one. Eliminating the schizophrenia gene would therefore also certainly cause as much harm to the gene pool as benefit. There is already some prima facie evidence for this. People with schizophrenia are thought to have a reduced incidence of certain physical illnesses, such as rheumatoid arthritis and some cancers. It's also worth remembering that during most of the 20th century, however, the practice both in the UK and USA was to confine people with schizophrenia in one of the large mental asylums where they had very little opportunity to reproduce. Yet during that time period, the incidence of schizophrenia in those countries actually increased slightly. So clearly the genetic issue is more complicated than we may first hear about. To conclude about this myths and misconceptions about schizophrenia today, sadly schizophrenia attracts many ideas and beliefs that just doesn't stand up to the evidence. Over the last 100 years or so, we have accumulated an enormous amount of research evidence to guide the way that we treat and respond to schizophrenia and many other mental health issues. However, it still receives less research funding than any other physical conditions such as heart disease or cancer. If we are to finally blow away all these myths and misconceptions, along with many other misunderstandings that will surely follow in their path, we need governments to fund much more research into this life-changing condition. So this quickly ends basically the myths and misconceptions about this schizophrenia. Give me a like, thumbs up, support, comment below. Feel free to share these videos around to family and friends. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, to follow me on my journey, do so if you wish. Feel free to also turn on the notification bell so you know when I'm out and about doing new content. Feel free to share these videos around to family, friends, or whoever that needs to hear my show. And over there, guys, follow me on my social media sites as well. Thanks for your support, thanks for watching, do what you love what you do. Until next time, Aspie signing out, and I'll see you again soon.